country, civilization, our allies in a lot of trouble, two wars on two continents because we projected weakness. But I think nothing hits it home more like yesterday meeting hostages who have been released recently from Gaza, their families who still have loved ones. Weakness is a very dangerous thing. We know what's behind that evil is this terrible regime in Iran. And for Mark Wallace, I'm nervous to have Mark Wallace here because he knows me better than maybe any other human being for the longest period of time. He was there when my first child was born, and then we went on to have like a lot of children. I hope I've been there for you at key times too, but it's a real honor for me, Mark, to be with you because your work is amazing. And, you know, your work is different from my work, but here's where it's similar. First of all, we have the same enemies, enemies of America, enemies of decency. But we're also kind of getting to an age where we don't want to put up with this stuff anymore. And I watched you and your beautiful wife as you took me over to the 80th anniversary at Auschwitz, and to see your commitment to holding these extremists, terrorists accountable is amazing. So you've got great things to tell us today.
Thank you, Matt. And after so many years, I've done so many things with you and your wonderful family. It's really great to be here. We go way back, and what you've done, uniting an incredible group of people across such a broad spectrum, is a testament to you and to CPAC, and to be on the stage with you, old friend, is a big honor. And it's
old. You hear that? He called
very
me
old friends. We go way back. But you're right, Matt. Today is a somber day because, you know, when I woke up and I saw the images of the pictures of those red-headed, beautiful babies that were being, whose bodies were being returned to their families, while Hamas and their patrons celebrated over the bodies of babies, it reminds us of the challenges that we collectively face and the importance of allies and us sticking together against who is the ideological driver of that hate, whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. It is Iran. Iran is the number one foreign policy challenge for all of us. And I know we're all united to stop them. And what we have here today is a big surprise, first time ever, Matt. And hopefully we can show the true face of the Iranian regime and also pay tribute to the Vivas children and the others that were killed in Gaza by Iran's proxies.
If you could hear our voices out here in the hub, the center, we've called this room so many different things. I never know what to call it. It's the center of the action. You're going to want to see what Mark and his team has brought here today, and with your great friends in the Polish government.
Yes, I want to. The Polish delegation is here. I'd like to ask to stand, who are our great colleagues and allies, the Republic of Poland, the ambassador, the military attaches, and their delegation. Please stand and to be acknowledged. And Matt, by the way, not only are they great allies and have they worked with us to fight Iran, but the highest percentage defense spenders in NATO at nearly 5%, even before President Trump said that. So they know what the obligation is to NATO, and we should celebrate our Polish friends. So thank you all for being here.
Yeah, I know you honor us with your presence. Thank you. Believe it or not, we have Polish people, Polish Americans who help us every day. Beautiful people, beautiful country. And I think the best part about it is we are working together to make sure that we have security in Europe. And part of that starts with actually spending money on defense. Sadly, America is a very strong country. I think it's back on the right track. You know my politics, but we can't do it all. We need a lot of friends, and it's a dangerous world.
Well, even in my great talks with our friends, the Poles and other countries, they were at 4.7% higher than any other country.
You got them to 5, probably. I've seen you browbeat.
No, they're good on this issue. Others, we need to do much more, and the president's right. But we really also we're here to celebrate President Trump and the administration, because the reimposition of maximum pressure on Iran, as you know, Matt, is something that I've worked for and lived for.
Well, you also helped create the policy, and that's how it works inside and outside of government, right? You have people on the outside that help you develop the policies that the people inside government can really implement. And I think the great thing is that I think they've done it with zest and gusto.
When you have President Trump adopting maximum pressure and putting pressure on the Iranian regime as that Ayatollah gets older and potentially dies, has no potential successor, as the Israelis have weakened them all around, and you have great people like Rick Grenell, Steve Witkoff, Morgan
You guys like
Ortagus.
Rick Grenell? He's okay, right?
Yeah.
How about this Steve Witkoff person? I don't really know him. I got to meet him in Poland, but like he's doing amazing things.
Well, I don't want to say what Special Envoy Witkoff has said to me in private about Iran, but let's just say it's good. It's very good, and he's very strong and savvy on the issue. And he's, after so many years working, it's liberating to see a policy that works. With respect, when we talk about what we're going to unveil here, I've had to work with every administration, and sometimes it's been harder. And what we're about to unveil has killed people around the world, but also Americans, and that reflected a failed American policy that I know this president is changing.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
How do we do this?
I think we come up.
Are you guys ready to see this awful, terrible thing that our great friends brought to CPAC? Go on that side.
All right, let's do this. Let's unveil it.
Do I go in the front? All right, Mark, what is this?
That thing could fly? That thing actually flew.
You all have never seen this, and this has never been made available anywhere publicly in the world. What you have in front of you is the most ubiquitous terror weapon of mass destruction in the world today. It is an Iranian Shahed 136 drone, and this is a drone that was used to target American forces in the Middle East over 170 times after this October 7th attacks, ultimately killing the wonderful service members at Tower 22. It's the drone that was used against our allies in the United Arab Emirates, launched against the Burj Khalifa. It's the drone that was used against the Saudi Arabia oil fields to strike our Saudi allies. It's the drone that threatened shipping in the Red Sea by the Houthis, who launched these drones at cargo ships and our Navy vessels. And it's the drone that terrorizes Europe. And one was just launched at the Chernobyl nuclear plant the other day. And it was a drone like this, the Shahed 136 Iranian drone that was used to launch into Chernobyl to potentially spread nuclear fallout across Europe. It has terrorized Ukrainians, Americans, Israelis, Gulf Arabs, and others. When the Israelis were attacked by Iran from Iranian soil, this was the weapon system that was deployed to attack Israel. The citizens of over 80 countries, Matt, have been killed or wounded by this Iranian weapon system. When you see the Beavis children and the terrorists celebrating in the street, and the Iranians say that they are peace-loving and that their nuclear program is for peaceful purposes, or that they don't export terror, and they smile at you and tell you that the Iranian regime is peace-loving, and they smile, this is the face of Iranian terror. This menacing weapon. I call it very similar, Matt. Remember during World War II, the V1 buzz bomb that rained on London and the city, terrorizing people, indiscriminately killing people. It had a buzzing sound and would launch and land, you never know where. This is the V1 buzz bomb of the day. It sounds like a V1, and imagine 12 of these, 13, 14, 15, coming in at night, never knowing where it's going to hit, smashing into residential buildings, killing women, children, and innocents, all while Iran tries to deny it. They didn't want this to be shown because they don't want to own this. They've exported this terror weapon all around the world, and it's killed Americans. And on this day, as we remember the Beavis family, this is the ideology behind what killed the Beavis family.
So while this is happening, this is kind of like the way it is at CPAC. While we're looking at this weapon of mass destruction, as you called it, Ambassador, on our stage right now, we have hostages and hostage families with my wife, and they're talking about what it's like to be the victims of terror it's kind of a twofold thing, Mark. This is the blood, this is the death, this is the mayhem. But what the hostages are going through is the psychological torture that goes with it as well. Those are their two main weapons. And they'd like to paralyze us into thinking that we can pull back, that we can make a truce with the bad guys, that we can kind of like figure out a way forward. There's only one way to make them stop. You have to get them out of power.
And it's deterrence, Matt. Look, I've worked with every administration because it's my job to fight the Iranians. During the last administration, we had no deterrence on Iran. There were over 170 attacks against American forces because our policy was if they killed Americans, we would respond. 3 service members had to die before we had any response, and that response was too weak. Right now, the president and his administration have made clear you don't kill Americans and get a response, but if you threaten or if you're provocative, you will face the consequences of American force and might, and that we will stay with our allies and we will defend freedom across the range of Iranian terror and activity. And that's the difference what President Trump has done when he's come back into office, Matt.
Well, like I said, we thank you for your help, our friends from the Polish government. Thank you for being in this fight with civilization against those that want to upend civilization. And I don't know what your plans are for this, Mark, but I think you got to take this around. It's big and ugly and probably costs a lot to ship, but I think people need to see something that's relatively small, unfortunately, relatively inexpensive. That's right.
Yep.
What does something like this cost?
Well, that's why this is so terrorizing, Matt. When you think about the V1 buzz bomb, it rained on London. It was chased by Spitfires or shot down by weapons. This black painted drone comes in dozens form, costs between $80 and maybe $130,000.
$130,000. Nothing.
Right, nothing.
How many could they have bought with the 150 billion that Biden let slip to the Iranians?
Your math is always better than me.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Money, But let me tell you, we've shot this weapon system down on behalf of our allies with Patriot missile systems. That Patriot missile system costs millions of dollars. And to deploy a Patriot to shoot this down, Israel had to use F-16s and other fighter planes to track these weapon systems. But this is the challenge we face. The ideology, the terror, the terrorizing that they do to the families that you referenced on stage. Imagine being in the middle of the night, a woman, children, families hiding, cowering in cellars, whether it be in Europe, Israel, or the Middle East, all united in fear of this weapon system. America must be back to let them know it's not right to do this. We have to be allies with our friends, the Poles and other governments, our Israeli friends, our Arab friends. It is essential, but that's the ideology behind this. And this is a terror machine.
Well, Mark, you and I are going to be on the stage tomorrow to talk not only more about this, ways we can combat extremism everywhere, but specifically in Iran. And you and I are going to get creative in ways that we can kind of torture this regime, maybe is the way to say it, outflank this regime, make them sweat. Wouldn't that be good?
I think that the regime needs a little bit of CPAC smackdown.
Yeah, I agree with that. Do you agree?
I think a little CPAC smackdown for the Iranian regime.
That'd be nice. Mark doesn't say this, but he's been a real hero on these issues, and I know it comes at a cost. But if we don't beat the bad guys, they come here, they come other places that matter. We got to beat them. And the next 4 years is a real challenge for the American people. Do we have what it takes to really break the back of those folks that want to end civilization? I think we've got it. I think we can do it. It's going to take a lot of resolve.
And you're right, Matt. And let's remember what you said about the Iranians. Under the last presidency, the Iranians threatened individuals, people like me, were under a threat of violence by the regime. And this drone was actually used in a video created by the Ayatollah Khamenei simulating a strike on President Trump. Right? There was a video the Ayatollah put out of this drone potentially striking Mar-a-Lago. I believe that Iran will not be able to threaten Americans on American soil, not be able to threaten people under this administration. And I think tomorrow we'll open up a little bit of some ideas about how to help the Iranian people.
Thanks for being a CPAC, Mark. Ambassador Wallace.
It's the first time he's ever said that.
Thank you for usually.
It's
I
been
say it
25 years to
sarcastically.
get something like this. That level of respect. That's
I say it sarcastically, but it's actually pretty cool. He was the ambassador for reform at the UN. And I looked at him and I paused. I was like, you know, there's no hope there. I don't think you're going to get that done, but you should really try.
He had something to do with that. I think it was to punish me. So.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for being at CPAC.
Question.
God bless you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Can you take a good question? Or whatever you want to.
What type of armament does this carry? And could you tell what you can tell about the liberation of this aircraft?
Sure. This is what's interesting is this is the nose cone where the warhead would fit. And because it's so convenient, this unscrews and various types of warheads can come into this nose cone. About 110 kilograms of carrying capacity, which is a lot, and different types from fragmentary to incendiary and the like, depending on the use. And that makes it very easy to use. So it truly is a terror weapon. And you should think of it as a weapon system. It's not just one, and no one's ever seen an intact Shahed in the wild before. And that's why seeing it here today is so important. Look, there was some serious skullduggery and interest in getting this exfiltrated from Ukraine with the great Polish Special Forces. A little assist from the United States of America, getting some applications and processes to fly this on a Polish Air Force C-130 to the United States of America. And our great administration for clearing it and assisting the Poles in exfiltrating it. It was a wonderful collaboration, but certainly there was some skullduggery. I've always wanted to say skullduggery on stage, Matt. Certainly there was some skullduggery because the Russians and the Iranians wanted to make sure that this was never seen, and it had to be done covertly and under the cover of darkness with our allies.
Awesome. Good question. Anyone else? Thank you all for being here. Huh?
The range is almost 2,000 miles. It will go a long way. It will loiter. Like the V-1 buzz bomb, it had a certain range. This one can loiter and then strike, but still quite indiscriminately. So this was fired from Iran into Israel. This can be fired from Russia into Ukraine. This can be fired from Iran into Saudi Arabia. The range and extent of this weapon is what makes it so terrifying. Iran exports this terror weapon through the air to a range of our allies around the world.
Amazing. Amazing. Yes, sir. How was it supposed to go to Mar-a-Lago?
Well, look, I think that the Iranians get more creative with their propaganda than their capability. But the mere fact that the Ayatollah felt comfortable threatening the United States of America on an American social media platform shows the lack of ultimate deterrence that we have established in the United States. That era of lack of deterrence, I think, is now over under this president. So despite their cartoon-like videos that they can put out threatening Americans, threatening others, that period is over because I think that they know deterrence is back and there are consequences for threatening the United States, our allies, and our friends throughout the region in the Middle East.
So, Mark, where's this going to go afterwards? It's going to go to back behind us to the Ioanni booth?
I think we're going to move it back and have it on display. We have information sheets, and then we were going to hang it in your garage. I think.
Yeah, that's right. Let me tell you, after this, they might try to send one. That's one of the problems with all this.
Welcome to the club.
And I see Father Moretti here. Thank you for being here, Father. When you think of this, all I can think about is the victims and how appropriate to have a man of the cloth. We should all think about the victims of the terror, the murder that's associated with a weapon like this. And
thank you, Father.
Let's try to have no more victims, okay? That's the goal of strength.
I totally agree.
All right, Mark.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all for being here. Good job.